Hi kawan, welcome to EDCReady. Today we are taking a look at the Steel Mini Tuff Lite. Now, the previous video and including this video, the previous video was the Leatherman Free K4, and this video is done in quite a rush because my daughter is asleep and I want to get these videos out before before she wakes up. So which is why I'm kind of talking a little bit fast for you here today. Today we are looking at the Steel Mini Tuff Lite. Before we continue, I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to thomastools.com.my. They sent this to me on loan for me to do a review. So if you want to know more about this knife and where you can buy them, or you can just check out the description down below. There's a link to take you to the website. Super small knife. Let's look at the weight right here. We are coming in at about 43 grams or so, which is about 1.5 ounces or 1.4 ounces give or take. Very, very small. Let's look at the total blade length right here. Total blade length right here is on the box, it says 2 inches. So let's try to measure it. It's a little bit awkward. Yeah, 1.96, 1.97. I'm just gonna call it 2 inches like it says on the box. But the sharpened blade length right here is coming in at 1.4 inches or so. I'm gonna call it there. Now we have the handle length of 3.16 inches, but we're gonna measure it with the sharpening with the finger trowel. It's coming in at just under 3.5 inches. Closing this bad boy up, we have a total blade height of 1.23 inches, and then a handle thickness of 0.47, and then of course stock thickness, which I forgot to measure earlier. We're coming in at a relatively slim 0.1 inches. So before we go to the review, let's do a few size comparisons. Let's do it with my everyday carry knife right here. This is the Para 3 lightweight. Very, very small, as you can see here, very small. It has a bigger finger trowel than the Para 3 lightweight, which is surprising because it's a much smaller knife, hence why it's so ergonomic in terms of its size in the pocket. Definitely, it's also going to be extremely small in the pocket right there. And also another very small knife right here to compare it with is the Kershaw Launch 10. Kershaw Launch 10, yeah. As you can see here, the difference in the sizes. Alright, let's go with the review tip to butt. Okay, what do I like about the blade right here? It is using an AUS 8A blade. Okay, definitely more of a budget blade steel. Pretty good corrosion resistance. Not gonna hold this edge very long. It's gonna be relatively tough. It's gonna be a great box cutter. You're cutting open packaging. You're cutting open envelopes. You're cutting open potato chips. This is gonna work very well for you. Coupled with the fact that this is a wharncliffe blade, which is gonna be great for these kind of cuts. And it's also hollow ground. It's actually surprisingly high hollow ground. Makes this one of the sharpest knives that I've ever had coming out of the box. That's the thing about cold steel knives. I've tested a few cold steel knives from thomastools.com.my. They sent it to me for a review. They all come strikingly sharp out of the box, and this is no exception. Now, the only bad thing I have to say about this blade in terms of its shape is that this is going to be very small. It's going to be a very good utility blade. But it's not going to be a very good slicing blade because there's just not a lot of surface areas to slice. You're not going to be able to do any kind of rocking cuts. You're not going to be able to slice whatever. You can cut down like that quite well, especially with this finger trowel. You can get the blade, or you can get almost the entire blade onto the flat of the chopping board right there. So it's going to be a pretty good cutter. It's going to be a pretty good free-hole slicer. It's not going to be very good slicing at the bottom, which for me is a-okay. I really love blades that you can do a bunch of pull cuts with, which is why I love this guy. You can do a lot of pull cuts with this guy. Okay, so moving back, you're not going to get a very good blade edge to blade length ratio because of this huge finger trowel. Moving back a little bit, the opening hole right here, relatively sharp. About the same sharpness as I believe the Spyderco Dragonfly was quite sharp as well. So keep that in mind. You can definitely round this off a little bit. You can take a sharpening stone or whatever and just round it off in the middle, or even sandpaper. I've heard you do get some nice jimping up here. Jimping is a little bit too sparse. It definitely provides a little bit of grip, but I would like it if it's a little bit more dense. Right now this is a bit too jarring. for my personal taste. A little bit more dense. You can even make it a little bit less sharp if you make it a little bit more dense. Moving back a little bit, this finger trawl, you get 2 finger trawl right here, 1, 2. So if you hold it like this, I have very small hands, like I wear maybe a size S glove, and I can get all 4 fingers right here. And I can get my thumb up top. You're gonna get amazing control of this blade. You can wield with it. You can poke through something with it. It's gonna be very, very nice in the hand. Surprisingly ergonomic. The most ergonomic small knife I've ever had. Even more than the Spyderco Dragonfly. Because it had those very nice finger trowels, and then it just locks in. Couple that with the fact that you have this kind of contouring in the middle here, your fingers right here just lock in even better, and this knife is not going anywhere in your hands. It's going to be extremely comfortable with one exception. Now, you do also have a sharpening trowel, if you want to know. Very nice sharpening trowel. In terms of the pivot right here, if I can take a look right here, I can't really tell what's in there. Okay, I did not take this knife apart. And if I were to guess, it is going to be Teflon. Let me just take a light right here and switch on the lights. I should have done this beforehand. And it looks like it is not bearings, not Teflon. It's probably just resting on the polymer scales right there. The polymer, they call it a Grivory polymer. It is their fancy plastic that they use. Very nice. It has very nice texturing. It has kind of like a very fine orange peel texturing. Very, very nice. I pretty much like it. Now, I've had 2 of these. I had one that's blue in color. The blue in color one, for some reason, once you open it, it has kind of this squeaky, high-pitched sound like when it opens up. This black one doesn't. I think that it wears off over time because this guy, I've held this guy, opened up this guy more often. So it's kind of, it doesn't have that squeak anymore, but the blue guy definitely does. You might want to open it up and lube it. Okay, so you do have a nice little lanyard hole right here that's very long. You can definitely put a thicker lanyard in here if you want, or a shoelace, because it's like very long. You can put a shoelace there as well. Very, very nice. It uses the Cold Steel Triad lock, which is a modified back lock in my opinion, based on testing that I've seen. It's one of the strongest lock, if not the strongest lock in the market. At least that is the sentiment. It works well. The only problem I have with the triad lock is that you really got to press it all the way down for it to disengage. Some back locks you don't need to depress it down as much, but Cold Steels you're gonna have to press it down all the way to close it, and then that kind of makes one hand closing a little bit more tricky because you really gotta press it down all the way. And sometimes it's fine when the lock bar is a little bit longer, so you have a little bit more leverage. Here it's quite short, so you're gonna have more more tension on that spring to overcome. Oh, sorry, you're gonna have to overcome that tension on spring with less leverage. Now, moving back, this is the thing I don't like about this knife. I do not like tip down carry. I do not like tip down carry. Tip down carry is when you put it in your pocket and the blade hangs down in your pocket. Okay, I prefer a tip up carry, which is having the pocket clip up here so that the tip is pointing up when you put it in your pocket. And the reason is, the ergonomics on this knife is almost perfect with the exception of the clip being here. Having the clip here, and then when you grip it hard, you're gonna get the clip digging into this part of your palm right here, sometimes into your finger right here. And then that creates a hot spot, and then it is the only hot spot that is on this knife. If I were to keep this knife, I would actually remove the pocket clip whatsoever because you don't need it very much. You already have this groove right here to help create some traction. You have the groove on the other side, and you can use that to stabilize the knife when you want to open it. Now, this is a very small knife right here. One thing I gotta say is that it can be a little bit finicky to open and close because of how small it is. My hands are quite small, size S, as I already mentioned. Very comparable to ladies' hands, and sometimes even I have a tough time opening and closing this. Alright, now as for the conclusion, what I think about this guy, I really like this guy. This guy has a lot of charm in it. Okay, it has a very nice strong lock. It's going to be very secure in your hands. It is really not threatening. A lot of people I've shown this to, their first reaction is like, oh, that's such a cute little guy. And this is a cute little guy. It's one of these knives that you know when you open it, you're just going to cut something and not someone. Okay, because this guy right here, living around people who find knives scary, this guy might be a little bit scary, not the most intimidating thing. This guy right here with the automatic action right here can be a little bit scary, especially with that aggressive blade shape. This guy right here, people think, oh, it's just a utility blade. And if you want a utility blade that is cheap, you don't mind sharpening it, or you know how to sharpen, or you don't mind asking someone to sharpen it, this is going to be a good knife for you. This is those knives that for those people who have not experienced hedonistic adaptation in knives, you're gonna like it. Hedonistic adaptation is when you've become accustomed to certain levels of quality in knives, that things that are cheaper don't really cut it anymore. It's a little bit more complex than that, but I'll explain that in a different video. But it's one of these knives that if you are not a knife snob, if you're not a steel snob, you're gonna like this knife. But if you're the kind of person that kind of likes the finer things in the EDC world, you know, you have a taste for different knives, and then you kind of develop your taste through this hobby, then this knife is not going to be the best option for you. If you want a beater knife, you should go with the Recon one that's under cold steel. If you want a small, slicey knife, you can go with the Spyderco Dragonfly. The only difference is with the Dragonfly, it has a pocket clip in the back, and then the ergonomics are almost as good as this guy. You're gonna get a better steel as well, but it's also quite a bit more expensive. Okay guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Do check out the link to thomastools.com.my in the description down below, and of course, if you bump into them, just thank them for loaning me this knife. Okay guys, that is it for the video, and stay ready.